Podcasters, episode 14. Welcome back, guys.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. Happy St. Patty's Day for those of you who celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
And feel that you have an ounce of Irish in you.
Something like that. Yeah, I hope you drink plenty of green beer or wine. Whiskey? Or some kind of like mixed drink that's green, I guess. I don't get the whole green beer thing and stuff, but whatever. I hope you have lots of fun and be safe. Because we're recording right now and it is St. Patrick's Day.
Ben's a jig.
Yeah, just, wishing everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. It doesn't feel like much of anything to me anymore.
No.
Because I guess, when you're a kid, you always, it's kind of forced on you, in school, like this is the day we celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Everybody's, dressed up in green and you'll get pinched if you don't wear green.
Oh, how cute.
And all that is just a bunch of bullshit to me.
Yeah, it means nothing to me. I'm Swedish. We don't celebrate it.
Yeah.
It's not our culture either, so...
It's just another day for me.
It was a culture shock when I came to the US, though, and saw how everybody all of a sudden one day a year turns Irish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, nobody turns Irish in Sweden because it's St. Patrick's Day.
Right. Well, you have a lot of... doesn't Sweden have a lot of immigrants?
Not from Ireland. The few that are from Ireland own pubs. It's no joke. It's no joke. True story.
That's awesome.
True story. I had a car shipped from, I can't remember, somewhere in the States when I lived in San Diego to San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And the truck driver was Irish. And we started talking about, the U.S. and where we're from. He was obviously from Ireland. I'm from Sweden. We're in Sweden, from Stockholm. And he goes, "Do you know my brother?" He owns the Dubliner, which is a pub. And we used to play a lot of shows there and stuff. So it's a small world after all.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a trip.
You would never expect.
Not in a million years. But yeah, it's a true story.
That is pretty trippy.
I knew his brother.
Yeah.
How about that for St. Patrick's Day?
Good story. And another crazy story I have to say is I was listening to the WTF Podcast number 890 with Gina Rodriguez, and
that's Mark Maron's podcast, isn't it?
Yes, that's Mark Maron's. I said WTF, so everybody should know.
Oh, they should know. Just
you
like
should know.
The podsters.
Yeah, the podsters. We're so popular right now.
Right.
So popular. We're going to do this anyhow. So, that
Gina
interview.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, that interview with Gina Rodriguez was awesome. It totally embodied everything that we talked about as far as Latino inclusion or the lack thereof.
Yeah, for those
in Hollywood or in filmmaking.
We had a big thing about that last podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, it totally, if you don't listen to our podcast, you have to go ahead and listen to the one before this and then go listen to the other podcast, the one with Gina Rodriguez on WTF. Okay.
And we're in no way affiliated with WTF. We're just not like the podcast. It's an awesome podcast.
On our podcast, I will recommend other podcasts. I will recommend whatever seems interesting to me. I'm not by any way, shape, or form affiliated with any of the other podcasts that I mentioned. Just that I listen to them.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out. We're completely self-financed and do-it-yourself. We're not endorsed or affiliated with any of the brands or anything we mentioned.
Yeah. That would be cool, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
You never know, but for right now, we're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gina Rodriguez, what did she have to say about Latino inclusion in movies? More than go listen.
More or less, because she has asked the people that do the hiring and stuff like that for, productions and stuff. And they're basically saying that Latinos are silent about they're pretty much silent consumers, pretty much, because they buy and consume whatever without any fuss, So why include them in any of the productions when they're already buying the stuff? It doesn't matter.
Care. Yeah. Well, care they do, but when they don't protest it as much as other groups.
Right.
That I gotta say is a shitty explanation.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Once again, Hollywood, go fuck yourself.
It's very profound in the sense that it's just, just slough off this demographic just because they already consume. It doesn't matter.
Just once again proves my theory that Los Angeles is just a nasty, stinking armpit of the U.S.
It's definitely there.
That sucks. That's a bad explanation, I think. I don't doubt that she got it as an explanation. I just say it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
And it's weird because Asians are getting more and more included.
Yes, they are.
And I've never really heard them protest a whole lot.
No, but they're putting themselves out there, though,
True, but I would say that there's a lot of Latino artists who put themselves out there. But I guess in the sense, they don't really make a big fuss about the fact that they're Hispanic or Latino, a lot of them.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
I've never really
kind of hard to... I have a hard time assimilating with, most Latino cultures because
but I'm saying, I think that there is people who hold really strong to the Latino culture and kind of keep to themselves.
Uh-huh.
But then you do have people in mainstream artistry of all ways, shapes, and forms who do it, but they're not always waving sort of a brown power thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, there's people, but when really you have to think and then go, oh, yeah, that's right. He is of Latin descent. I'm thinking, what's the guy from Slayer? I mean, he's the frontman of Slayer, for crying out loud. Tom, whatever his name is.
I have no idea.
Well, but basically, I've never heard him mention anything about, Hispanic culture or anything. He goes about do his thing, which is Slayer, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is. But it's still a lame explanation from La La Land that you don't shout loud enough, so we're not going to really have to include you.
Yeah, they don't take a hit if maybe the Latino community decides to just boycott everything. I don't know.
Maybe that.
Maybe Latinos should. Maybe they should boycott mainstream, productions in LA and stuff just because they don't care to include you.
I would.
It's time for people to stand up. I'm not saying it's a Me Too kind of thing, but it's time for people to speak up when it comes to stuff like that.
Stand up and speak up and be yourselves, people.
Yeah. Yeah, that interview was on point, so definitely listen to it.
Yeah,
if you have some time. I was very impressed with what she had to say.
I want to listen.
And Gina Rodriguez is the actress from Jane the Virgin. I never really got into that show, but a lot of people like it, and she's an up and coming actress, I think.
Yeah. If she's loud enough, because otherwise she won't be included.
Yeah, she's starring in some major film or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
That I really
don't care to watch.
Yeah, me and movies these days don't really get along. So,
well, that's cool. Congratulations, Gina.
Yeah, congratulations to her. I hope she achieves all her dreams. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so I had a little experience, an inner city experience the other day.
Oh.
I just, it is insane. the difference in culture and social class and stuff like that. It's just amazing. It really breaks my heart.
Let's point out that we live in a very little town.
Yeah, we live in a small town.
And you're from this small town.
Yeah, born and raised here, and so. I mean,
So you're the country mouse?
Yeah, I'm the country bumpkin. I'm the country mouse. And so whenever I get to go to the city, it is freaking scary to me. I mean, I try to be tough, but when you have to go to an inner city hospital's emergency room, that is some pretty scary shit. I mean, you see anything and everything. The last time we were at that hospital for my sister, we saw some crackheads hanging out, and they were just hanging out in the emergency room, the emergency room lobby to charge their cell phones. And what else did they do? Oh, there was, it looked like there was a couple of not old or anything like that, but they were some older people that looked like they've been partying too much. They partied too much throughout their lives. They party really hard, I'm assuming, because of the condition that they were in. And it looked like it was a spousal abuse situation too. And I was like, oh Lord, I was like, please help me. It was just crazy. And then you see, all types of people in that urban lower social class kind of setting,
Yeah, there's
and it was really sad. It's really sad to see too.
It's different. It's a different kind of poverty, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm the city rat. If you're the country mouse, I'm the city rat.
Yeah, you're definitely a city rat.
I mean, I've lived my whole life until I came out here 4 years ago in big cities. So to me, all that you're pointing out and being kind of like, afraid of.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
It's definitely something I don't see every day. That's for sure.
It's normal to me. And it's like, I think that's sometimes why I get jittery here, because it's so different. It's so quiet. It's so just, I don't know. It's different for sure.
Yeah.
But it was like when we went to Dallas too.
Oh yeah,
I almost felt when we walked this Sunday morning and all the homeless people came up sparing for change.
Yeah. So we were staying downtown Dallas because we thought it would be fun and nice to stay in a hotel downtown Dallas. We happened to be staying at the hotel that they housed Jack Ruby.
Yeah. Anybody remember
in
good
Dallas?
Old Jack?
Jack Ruby is the guy that shot Lee Harvey Oswald?
Lee Worry?
Yeah, excuse me. Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah. So, that was like...
We stayed at a hotel where they housed him for his trial.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool and interesting. It was a interesting fact told to us by one of the old valet guys.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was a beautiful Sunday morning. It was probably like around 10 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah.
And we were walking downtown. We were going to go do the touristy thing. We were going to go to the Kennedy Museum.
Yeah.
What is it? The
JFK Museum? No?
Or is it like the 6th floor museum or something? Something like that.
6th floor museum or something. It's basically the JFK Museum.
Yeah. So it was a distance. It was several blocks away from the hotel. And I was like, let's walk. It's interesting. Little did I know that it was going to be that interesting. Every few blocks or so, a hobo or a crackhead would come up to us and ask us for change. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, Michelle was freaking out, and I was kind of like, I feel at home.
I was like, no, I don't carry cash. Leave me alone. But I did feel bad for one guy because he was an older man, and he was very old.
And I gave him some change.
Yeah, I made Chris.
And then Michelle freaked out because I was wifting money around. Like we were going to get...
No, I felt really bad for him, and I told Chris that we should give him some change just to make his day a little bit better, I guess. And, but after that, I was like, back off.
That's just funny. Well, if you're used to it, you're used to it. I felt at home, and you were kind of in shock.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit scared.
I was the country mouse in the city.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting though, inner city, especially inner city, like emergency rooms and all the security they have.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was totally freaked out by it because when I walked into their main lobby, there was a cop behind the front desk. I was like, isn't that usually like a little candy striper job? But no, there was a cop there. And I was like, okay, well, at least I don't have to walk through metal detectors or anything, which I'm pretty sure there are some in some inner cities, bigger inner cities. And so I walked down to the emergency room in the lobby and met my sister. And, we're sitting there and I'm trying to make sure she's feeling okay. And they call her name up and we go in there to the triage area, and the triage nurse starts asking her questions. And we were getting ready to go back to the room that they were going to put her in, or the bed that she was going to be at. And one of the little security girls came up to me and she was like, ma'am, did you check in with us? And I was like, no, I don't believe so. She was like, would you mind coming out here to check in with me? And I was like, okay, fine. And she was like, can I see your ID? And I was like, okay, if that's what you need, I'll give you my ID. And she takes it and she puts it in this thing that's at her desk or whatever. It would kind of look like a little podium. But anyway, see, she slips it in this thing, and I'm like, what the hell is she doing with my ID? Is she like making a photocopy of it or something? But what she did was she made a photocopy, and I guess it's in their files now, but they put it on a name tag, and it was a visitor's badge. And I was like, oh, that's very clever. And I guess she saw the look on my face like I was so dumbfounded or something. And she was like, it's for security reasons, since all the school shootings have been happening. They want, security's getting really tight here. And I was like, oh, interesting. And the funny thing is that when we were in the triage area, I saw one of those like metal detector wands there, and I was like, what the hell would they need a metal detector wand in the triage area?
Well, if somebody gets shot, it's great to find pellets.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's very clever. Very, very clever. If like a kid decides to swallow a battery, they like to swallow those little
the little
watch batteries or whatever, those always end up in their tummy. So they can like detect that, or, construction workers that get nails or something.
Yep. And you think you get it all out and you can check to make sure.
Yeah. So very clever on them to do that, but it weirded me out just a little bit more. So my anxiety level was heightening just a little bit more. But yeah, once we got back there, it was fine and everything. And then when they finally came around to actually looking into my sister's issue and stuff, and I saw blood and not so happy things. So that really heightened my anxiety levels. I was like totally freaking out by this time, but I think the whole time I was kind of just making jokes and laughing about things with my sister just to try to ease the anxiety away. Oh man, but I don't know if I was offended or not by the nurse practitioner that was seeing my sister. Because she was British. She had a British accent.
Okay.
Older woman. She must have been like in her late 50s or something. Very well taken care of, I'm assuming, because she's a nurse practitioner. She's probably super healthy and whatnot. But she needed a stool, and she had a student nurse practitioner with her there. And so she needed a stool. The student ran off to go get her a stool, and the stool was too short. She goes, "Oh, I don't think that's going to work with me." Because she was fairly tall. She must have been like 5'11". And she goes, "Oh, but this would probably work for some other San Antonian." And I was like, I was like, that's pretty funny, because everybody in San Antonio is fairly short.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I cracked up. And she goes, "No offense or anything." And I was like, "Oh, none taken. I'm not from here." And she just kind of looked at me like, okay. And I found it offensive because she kind of assumed that we were like the typical inner city riffraff that comes into that hospital. Unfortunately, my sister has to go to that hospital because of her condition.
Yeah.
And her requirements or whatever.
We've talked about these poor nurses and medical staff too. They're overworked and tired. They probably see a lot of crap. So it's probably easy just to assume that you're local because you're at that hospital.
Yeah, and I know the last time we were there too, we were making the nurses crack up because we were just like cracking jokes about like the people that were there that night and stuff. Making fun of the crackheads, which isn't nice, but we were just trying to make light of the situation. But that was pretty insane. That was definitely a culture clash for me.
Culture shock.
Yeah, but it really made me look at society itself.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. That's all.
But what did? Yeah, I was gonna say what was your reflections on society?
Well, as they say, America is in denial of social classes, and there's definitely social class here in the U.S.
Oh, for sure. That's something I've always said, and it's always made me kind of laugh when people here claim that it's a classless society, because no, it's not.
It's not a classless society. It is. I mean, I saw it when I was there in the emergency room.
Right.
In an inner city area, and even like driving around that area too, it was just like, oh my God, these poor people.
Yep. What's funny though, just a reflection, is that here poverty tends to be stuck in the inner city.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's the suburbs.
And I don't get that. I don't get how people can afford to live in the inner city areas, or if they do, or I don't know. I just don't understand how they work things. I guess I've never really seen it enough. I from what I've seen, it's been a lot of homeless people.
Well, from what I gather in the States, though, is that the inner cities kind of get left on its own device until somebody comes in and do the whole
cleans it up. Yeah,
and it's the suburbs that get expensive and nice and fancy.
Yeah,
where like the downtown areas get left to their own device. In Europe, it's always been the other way around. I think because most job opportunities have been in the city areas. Mm-hmm. So it's like they've constantly tried to push this quote unquote riffraff further and further away.
But you know what? That's a socialist country.
It's not a socialist country, and it's not just Sweden. It's everywhere in Europe. It's gone like that. The downtown areas got gentrified way sooner than here.
Mm-hmm. Because the money's there. People pay taxes out the wazoo there to keep their country or whatever city that they're in at a certain level, I guess.
Well, I think that part is more about basic logic economics. You want to live close to where you work.
Right.
And if you work, the work is in the inner city. Hence, you want to live there. Mm-hmm. Which means that people who can't... nothing ever gets dilapidated and closed out there. But they started building when the influx of people came towards the cities. They started building suburbs that were cheaper.
Yeah.
And here it's almost the other way around.
Oh, yeah.
That, the suburbs got sprawling for the white picket fence squares kind of thing.
For the American dream.
Yep. Build the American dream. Just a little side note.
And this week's bullshit of the week is going to be bad drivers.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Dun, dun, dun. Once again. I'm always complaining about bad drivers, but
there's so
don't
many
understand.
Around them here.
I just don't understand the whole logic in the traffic situation on the highway, because traffic should have been flowing nicely. There were no accidents whatsoever.
This is you coming home from San Antonio.
No, that was me going to San Antonio.
Going to San Antonio.
It was the traffic, it took me about 45 minutes to get downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, and it's all because people don't know how to drive.
I mean, I was going 45 to stopping at some points, and that's not very normal for I-35 between, here and there. Right. So I was just fuming because people were just sitting on their brakes.
I don't get that. It's like something happens in the slow lane, in the furthest away slow lane.
And the sad thing is that the slow lane was moving faster than the fast lane. The fast lane would be at a stop at most times.
Yeah,
and the slow lane would be moving. Yeah, I'm like, what the
people
fuck?
Tend to think that just because there's a little thing somewhere and they have to go from like 70 to 67, they try to merge into the fast lanes here. And the fast lane just gets bogged up because all these people think that if I get in the fast lane too,
yeah,
it won't go faster, people. You slow everything down.
I don't know. It was just insane. And then people driving either super fast or not fast enough. And then I almost saw a guy get run over downtown San Antonio because we were at a stoplight and it was red forever. He was standing at the corner across the street, waiting to cross. And as soon as the stoplight turned green, he started stepping off the sidewalk. I was like, are you fucking kidding? And he's crossing. And he's walking. And I was just like, I just stopped. I was just like, no, I can't.
There's a lot of pedestrian accidents in San Antonio, and I swear it's the pedestrians' fault. You people walk like idiots.
They're either not using the crosswalks or they don't know how to use the crosswalks. It's
when
insane.
It says wait, that's when you're supposed to stand still. That doesn't mean go.
Yes. And the guy next to me ended up like honking the hell out of that guy, but it did anything to affect the guy? No, of course not. Because he's just like, I don't know if he was mentally challenged or what, but I was just like, who does that?
A lot of people.
And I did see something on the news about how they're coming up with things, speaking of mentally challenged or whatnot, but autistic kids have been getting run over apparently at crosswalks because they don't know how to use them. So somebody's come up with a device to help them, use crosswalks, which is cool. And I hope everybody that needs to have one gets one. That's all I have to say, because, it's the driver's responsibility to make sure that you're not going to run over somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless if it's your right of way to go or whatnot, you still have to watch out for pedestrians.
Yes, but pedestrians think a little bit too. Just because you have the right of way doesn't mean you can blindly just walk.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
It's like these idiots that think that because they turn on their turn signal means that they automatically can get in the lane they want to.
Yeah. And you know what I think that is? I think that is part of the way they do the driver's license.
It's too easy to get a license here.
For one, there's not very many driving schools here. A lot of the driving curriculum is either like online, or you get a pamphlet, you read it, and then you go take your test.
Yeah, and that's really, so people were, when I moved here, a book. And then I got this pamphlet, and I'm like, that's not a book.
Yeah,
that's a fucking little brochure.
Yeah, so they don't get the experience of somebody showing them how to drive or anything like that. So I think that's one of the flaws in the system there. You know, I think everybody should go through a driving school to really learn what everything means.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So my bullshit of the week is people who don't know how to freaking drive. Learn how to drive, please, and watch out for pedestrians. That's a good PSA advice for today as well.
And I have a good advice, since you know that we guys aren't too fond of the way society is today, and we rack a lot on social media and stuff. Don't get us wrong. There's plenty of good things you can do out there. But with the sensory overload people are having, it turns into, use YouTube to look at how to, I'm sure there's driver's license or driving lessons online.
Yeah. Use
YouTube for that instead of looking at kids farting with hip hop music in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
Do something. There's so much good stuff out there on the internet. We don't hate technology. We hate the users.
Yeah.
Use it correctly. Do something good. There's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah, the stuff that's actually out there that people are watching is so. How do I say?
It's menial. It's.
Yeah, to be nice, for a lack of better words, it's very menial and. Brain numbing.
Yeah, brain numbing is a good word, and that segue us in to our music segment this week, because it almost feels like Y2K actually did happen.
For music
and society. It's like they had this, for those of you who weren't around then, before the year 2000, it was this big scare that Y2K would collapse society, because they thought that
end
all be all of society, because the computers wouldn't
recognize the date properly.
Yeah, they basically wouldn't recognize the date,
and like every system would shut down.
No, that didn't happen,
and we would live in almost like a post-apocalyptic world.
That was the scenario.
Without computers.
Yeah, and unfortunately the computers did that transfer really well, but something happened with people and society instead.
And what is that?
They used the technology wrong, and they just get dumber and dumber. And it's really interesting because music tends to reflect society. And I was watching some really interesting talk show, old interviews with people this week. I saw John Lennon on Tom Snyder. And Tom Snyder had this punk thing when punk was new, and he was interviewing Joan Jett.
Nice.
What's his name? From the Jam was there.
Oh, don't ask me.
I should know.
You told me who it was earlier.
It don't matter. But basically got me thinking, because we love rock and roll. And as you guys know, if you haven't listened to this show, you're going to hear us clank around a lot saying that there's no good new music out there. We know that there is underground, but when we rag on things, it's mainstream. We talk about like the state of music and art in mainstream society.
Yeah, mainstream music is the music that people like the record companies and stuff want you to listen to. Right.
Paul Weller, by the way, is the guy's name from the Jam. He was there on that thing. And basically the thing that got me thinking, and this is why we're going to have this quick little music history lesson and stuff, what was basically that punk was new. These guys at the point represented something new and frightening for the elderly generations, actually. They had a lot of energy and anger, as they said. But it was interesting, and it got me thinking, because they were talking about, okay, this is now, you guys aren't selling a whole lot of records. You're breaking through, but you're not mainstream yet. What happens in 10 years when you guys are millionaires on your music and you're actually part of mainstream culture? And
that's a good question.
It was. And it was both Joan Jett and Paul Weller, because they gave the same answer.
I love Joan Jett.
They said that, well, 10 years from now, when we're established and we're mainstream, we hope that there's a new generation of kids that do their own thing and sees us as old relics and dinosaurs that need a kick in the butt. Because we've done our thing, kind of thing. And it got me thinking about rock and roll and the Y2K downfall of civilization. Because but we all know that. I mean, rock and roll came from somewhere, and we all know that. We don't have to go into like the whole history of music. And
if you don't know your rock and roll history, go to a library or Google it or something.
Well, or YouTube it. I'm sure there's good documentaries.
Right?
But anyhow, I mean, basically, if you think about it, in the late 50s, there was a bunch of people. Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bill Haley. Who else? You look like you wanted to name drop.
I think Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly,
there
yes.
You go.
Gene Vincent. You have these people that brought out this new, wild, exciting music that was named rock and roll. And it shocked parents or the older generation because it allured to young people and sex. A lot of it.
God forbid.
God forbid. But it was wild and considered outrageous when it came. And it kind of solidified into a sort of shape and form during the early 60s. Of like, this is a format of rock and roll. And then a couple of years passed by, and in the late 60s to early 70s, there was a new generation of people who had been inspired by these first guys doing rock and roll.
Yeah, the first rock generation.
Right. The second generation came in, and now they were shocking the older generations by singing about the state of the world, protesting what they saw as social injustice.
Their look, because they weren't
had a new look,
clean
as well.
cut.
They were not clean cut.
They had long hair. Those hippies.
Yep, hippies, and
even the Beatles were considered hippies because they had long hair.
Yeah, I mean, and they were part of that whole thing, and the music had changed too. Because yes, the initial rock and roll had energy. But now, a couple of years, 10 years down the line, they started refining what the first generation of rockers didn't really want was distorted instruments, like sound.
They wanted that
sound.
Clean sound.
Yeah, they were still trying to build amplifiers that had clean sounds and stuff. Now you've gone to where experimentation has taken part. You want fuzzy, distorted sounds. There's pedals. If you couldn't get your amp to do it, you could get a pedal to do it.
Right.
They'd invented the wah pedal, so it sounds almost like how the trumpet players used to mute the trumpets and get that like crying sound.
That wah, wah, wah.
All that starts coming around. The music is heavier. You're getting into psychedelic rock. Hard rock has its formation with Black Sabbath, Steppenwolf. There's a new sound on the street.
Hard rock, metal.
Yeah. The like real origins
the
of that.
Original heavy metal.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go with Purple Uriah Heep, the progressive rock that was there, I mean, is really the foundation of metal. And it starts to kind of form there. 10 years down the line, you have punk rock showing up, which is musically taking a step back to rock and roll. It's very basic. It's kind of primitive. And you have bands like the Ramones, Sex Pistols, The Clash. And you also have the real, what people would consider heavy metal with Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. All these bands come out, and now they don't only sing about social injustices, that they're ironic, they're violent, and that's how they're perceived, at least, and it creates a ruckus. Well, as Joan Jett and Paul Weller predicted, another 10 years go down the line.
Uh-huh.
And now you have bands like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Motley Crue. They start they're mainstream staples now. And it's even harder. It's even heavier. It's even more furious. And these guys, get their say. And what were they called? The Tipper Gore Foundation. She flipped her lid on it, and she wanted
Oh my gosh! Oh yeah, I PRMC,
PMRC, whatever they were called.
Yeah, they're the ones that
they wanted to
created the parental advisory sticker.
They wanted to censor all this, but they got the parental advisory sticker on stuff.
Because you know what? Freedom of speech, bitch.
Right? And then 10 years down the line from that, you have a new generation that's kind of reacting to this glammy, huge arena Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue thing. Musically, they're kind of taking a little step back to the 70s, both with some of the bands being fuzzy, kind of psychedelic, and other bands like Nirvana being punk as fuck kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a new generation that says, you old generation, Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica, you suck. Here we are, we're doing our thing. And then
it almost seems like it's an alternating kind of...
It's an alternating 10-year cycle.
Evolution of rock.
Yes. Until...
Or evolution and...
well, I mean, it's always...
Or progression and regress.
But I still say it's progression because each time it looks back.
But it creates a different sound each time.
Exactly. It creates a new sound, a different sound that they might have taken roots in the 60s, 70s stuff. But it's new. Yeah. And it's fresh. And kids get turned on to it in masses. Again, it's like a revival of just energy for the young generation.
Yeah, and people thought that was dark, and it also caused kids to want to take drugs and be violent as well.
Well, yes. So the older generation said, and chances are that didn't really happen.
But that's what they said about the Beatles.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's that cycle
again. It's that cycle, exactly. It's that cycle. And up until this point, too, it's always been very clear that you have a large group of, call them squares, preppies, whatever, the white picket line fans, normal society. And there was a line where if you stepped over the line, you made an easy statement saying that I'm not part of your group. You suck. I'm going to do my own thing. So it's happened in 10-year cycles.
It's almost like music has classes as well.
Music has classes.
They have social classes, It
does, for sure. But rock and roll in some way, shape, or form was relevant for mainstream society. It's stuff that was played on the radio. It's stuff that was seen on TV. And after grunge, Y2K, the year 2000 came around, and nothing happened.
Nothing happened, yeah.
In the music scene. And like I said, hold your horses, guys. I know we have stoner rock, we have sludge, what about gent? All this goes on, but it's underground all of a sudden.
Yeah.
These Meshuggah, who invented, for you young guys listening, your whole gent thing, they were never played on the radio. They were never seen on MTV. They didn't tour, make tons of money on their music. So all that's underground. We're talking mainstream. At the year 2000, it all just fades away. There's no new great rock. All that keeps coming is revival of old bands.
Yeah.
Kind of making, Poison made a comeback.
Or they start covering songs.
Right.
And, the sad thing is I heard I don't know who it was that covered it, but the song Gone Away by The Offspring was being covered, and it was playing at Target nonetheless. They had it played on their little Overcom radio or whatever. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. How long ago was that? Maybe like 20 years ago?
Right.
20, maybe 30 years ago? Yeah,
Maybe,
I think it was more 30 years ago. OMG. I felt fucking old.
Yeah, and it's like, but at 2000, it all dies.
Yeah.
I mean, Lemmy was waiting for someone to take Motorhead's torch and run with it, and he ended up doing Motorhead until he died. 40 years of Motorhead, no one ever really came and took that torch and ran with it.
R.I.P. Lemmy.
So, big question is, what happened? And that's why I'm saying that Y2K did happen, because something went wrong at the millennium. Nothing came and took over and ran with the rock and roll fire.
I think what happened was like all the music streaming things and Napster and stuff like that. Everybody had more accessibility to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to go and create new music to listen to something good.
True.
But that also, that's the whole intent or purpose for these streaming apps, these music streaming apps, because they're there to tell you what to listen to. Just because you like one band, they're going to tell you to like all these other bands.
Yeah.
Because they're all similar. You know what? Maybe I don't want to listen to something that's similar to one band from another. There's a reason why I like several different bands or groups or whatnot. And I listen to all kinds of music because I have an ear for just different sounds,
for the sounds you prefer. And
I think
not only that, I think that previous generations of kids, you didn't have a lot of choices in life.
No, not at all.
You basically, you young ones are going to laugh, but you had 2 or 3 TV stations. You had 3 or 4 radio channels. Mm-hmm. And you could basically be a really no good idiot that just ran around sniffing glue. You could play sports.
That's in the inner city.
Yeah, right. I don't know what the country bumpkins did, but in the inner city, you could sniff glue. Not a whole lot of people did, but the kind of crowd that they were up to no good, right? Or you could join sports and become good and proficient in some sort of sport, and you could follow that religiously, know every player and every team and their stats and everything.
Right, yeah.
Or there was music. You could find out what music tickled your fancy, and you could hunt for the records. Yeah. You could learn the records, and hopefully, if you got inspired enough, you picked up an instrument, and you dreamt of becoming that band you really liked.
And you would listen to that record over and over again.
Yeah, you would listen to
the tape.
Oh yeah. Tape trading was huge. I mean,
mixtapes. Oh my God, I love mixtapes.
Yeah, I wasn't really into mixtapes, but it was always like that. We liked punk and heavy metal, so it was always like one guy got Motorhead's new album, and another guy got the Sex Pistols. And you know
album. What? Radio was actually good back then too.
It was.
You could sit there and record your favorite songs on the radio and stuff. And now, if you listen to the radio, it's the same shit over and over again. Yeah. It's that crappy mainstream music. And even the rock radio stations here, they're cruddy because they play
radio stations.
All they ever play is 90s music.
Yep.
And then maybe they'll throw in a little bit of like Rush or Led Zeppelin or something like that. Yeah, which is even
further back. But that's what I'm saying. Rock and roll kind of died in the 90s, mainstream-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's nothing new out there that can be, quote-unquote mainstream.
Yeah, but I think you had no choice. If you didn't like sports or sniffing glue, you had music as your thing, and you could learn to play an instrument. If you went that far more than loving music, you could start playing it yourself.
Yeah.
And you would be able to get people to come to a show because there was nothing else for the music-loving people that didn't form bands to do. So they would go to local shows and you would get support, and eventually, hopefully, you would be able to record, get a record deal, and, work your way up. But I think what happened around the millennium is all of a sudden you had, like you said, streaming services started coming. Mm-hmm. On top of that, you started getting really good video games. Like the whole PlayStation and stuff started coming out.
Yeah.
You went from these like little Mario figures that we grew up
the
with.
Pixelated video games.
Whatever they are, Donkey Kong and stuff. They started evolving. The internet really started breaking loose with movies, music online. And then you started getting streaming services. You started getting social media, MySpace, Facebook.
Yeah.
And if you look today, 18 years into, there's fuck all. Periscope, Snapchat.
Twitter.
Yeah, everything. And I think...
Instagram.
So
all those things that I'm not in.
My theory, and I'm curious to hear you guys' theory out there, has music today just become sort of background noise?
Ooh. That's an interesting question.
That's how I feel. That when I listen to something, I do it actively. As in, if I want to listen to an album, I turn on that album, and that's what I do. I focus on listening to it and enjoying it. But it seems in today's crazy society, it's sort of, like you said too, that you guys turn on a streaming service with a playlist that plays all kinds of music, mm-hmm. and then you try to play your video game as you're Snapchatting with your friend while you're checking Facebook, and on the TV you're trying to figure out what movie to watch on Netflix, and you're doing all this at once.
Yeah.
And the music is just kind of there in the background.
And I'm guilty of some of that. I don't play video games, but I'm pretty guilty of like turning on the TV because there's nothing to watch, and then like listening to some music, and then maybe playing a crossword game or whatever I play, whatever game apps I have or whatnot.
Yeah, but it feels like music has sort of taken the back seat for a lot of other things. It's like this crazy electronical chatter going on where the music is just part of the static noise, or what was before would have been silence or static noise. There's a little playlist playing stuff because you don't care what you're listening to. You don't go in and say, I want to listen to the fucking Ramones. And you turn on Rocket to Russia and you love that album.
Yeah.
Or, whatever it is. You don't turn on Motorhead's Iron Fist and listen to it from start to finish and really listen. It's some similar to Motorhead that's blabbing in the background while you do all this other stuff. Is that why we haven't gotten a kick in the butt?
Yeah, is that why music hasn't progressed any?
Hasn't progressed. It hasn't produced anything interesting.
Whatever's being produced that's hitting the mainstream is just ridiculous.
I want to point that out again. If we talk underground, there's tons of great new bands.
Yeah, I have to give it to the underground scenes and stuff.
Shout out to the Swedes in Thunder Mother. Yep. And Thunder Mother and Honeymoon Disease.
Oh,
great new albums for this year. Honey Badger don't give a shit. No, Honeymoon Disease, 2 awesome albums that came out this year, but once again, with all music being treated as static background noise,
no one's ever gonna know.
Not more than the few initiated, and it sucks because you guys deserve to be known. Seriously.
There's a lot of good bands out there that deserve to be on the radio and stuff, but unfortunately
on a bigger stage than you guys get to be, more than when you play festivals. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, because to me it seems that Y2K happened in a way we didn't anticipate, and music today is reduced to some sort of, not even entertainment, it's just some sort of background noise
or like a white noise or something.
It's like a white noise to hide the fact that you're sitting alone in a room. Me, I'm gonna put my headphones on and actually listen to something.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys, take care. Find some good bands. We're on SoundCloud. You guys are on SoundCloud. Find something you really like and let us know. What did you listen to this week?
Did you discover a new album?
Let us know.
Alrighty, guys. I hope you enjoyed our little chat today.
We certainly did enjoy talking for you, at you, to you.
Don't forget to hit us up at
thepodsters@gmail.com, and that's podsters with a Z. You can also leave a comment on our Facebook page.
Or YouTube.
Yes, YouTube and SoundCloud is where you can hear these podcasts for free.
So professional.
Yes.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.